Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, today, I've almost been dreading this. I'm joking. Something that's going to be quite special, I think. But I always have a sense of dread now with Ryefield Model's armour, because it's a full interior version of the King Tiger, Tiger House B, the Koenigs Tiger, the Tiger 2, so many different titles it has. Of course, they're absolute monsters, these things. What they weigh, 70 tonnes I think they were, against I think 55 tonnes for the standard Tiger. I've got my Porsche Cup here, but that's very appropriate because I think it had a Porsche gearbox on it, didn't it? I think that was a dual clutch thing, wasn't it? Anyway, don't want to draw any comparisons between this and my car. Let's just forget about that. Now, this has been loaned to us. We'll move on quickly. This has been loaned to us by a friend of the channel, Stewart Neale, and it's brand new. It's literally just come hot from the courier to us. Kit number 5146 from Ryefield Model. Now, when I said I was a bit sort of dreading it, the real reason I was dreading it is the fact that these full interior kits, they have about 7.3 trillion parts, you know, things like the tracks, and this could take a while. So you might as well make yourself a brew, get yourself a beer, pour a glass of wine or a whiskey or whatever it is that you prefer, or even some juice if you're not a tippler like me. Just get a cup of coffee or a tea or whatever, because you're going to need some biscuits and some snacks, because this is going to take a little while, I think. Let's have a look at it then. Now, I've got to say the box art is really nice. It's obviously a late war tank, is this? Let's just zoom you in a bit, see in a bit more detail. Late war, looks like it's fighting in somewhere like Holland or possibly Germany. On the side we've got an idea of what's going to be included, i.e. everything. Everything's going to be included. Engine, interior, absolutely the lot. And on the other side, it gives you a bit of an idea about how they're going to go about doing that. So I think, I'm not sure, prejudging it. I don't know if we've got a metal barrel. I'm not sure about that, actually. I thought there would be, but it doesn't look like it. But you've got your Maybach engine, your Porsche double clutch gearbox that I mentioned, close-up of the engine, full interior for the turret, full interior for the actual crew compartment, and then you've got a lot of sprues, you've got photo etch. I'm exhausted, I've not even opened it yet. Just looking at that makes me feel old, to be honest. Now, the one criticism, joking apart, there is a criticism that often gets said by people like my friend Jason from Model Kit Stuff, because he's not a fan of Ryefield. I don't really share that view. I can see where he's coming from on some of them though, especially on he always moans about the Tiger. And he had a fair point as well on that one, because I did a review of that kit, I think the early mid Tiger, and it had tons and tons of parts that you never use. And then, I mean, this has cost £60, retailing at around about 60 quid, 65 quid. So it's not a cheap kit, but then it is heavy. There's clearly a lot of plastic in here, so let's get looking into it and see what we've got. There's going to be huge amounts of sprues. What I do like about Ryefield is the resealable bags. So from a reviewer's perspective, especially when it's not my property, makes things nice and simple. I don't need to do any bag resealing. I can just carefully seal them back up. Here we go, multiple, oh god, yeah. They're at it already, multiple different versions of the turret. Oh gosh. But, you know, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's just, he says, look at the tracks. Oh my god. Bag after bag of tracks. Oh, maybe Jason's right. Oh. I'm not sure coffee's going to be strong enough for this. Let's see how we go. Right. But they do a nice kit, and they are very nicely moulded, Ryefield. And we've also got, we've got some, like an artwork. Is this a bit of a, let's get that box out. What have we got here then? Doesn't exactly say on the front. Oh, this is, alright, let me zoom you in, because there's so many bits of plastic, it's buried my controls. Let me zoom you in, and we'll see what we have. So it's basically, I thought it was just a piece of artwork like you often get with these kits. Careful not to bend it. So it's got this lovely piece of art, same as on the box art, and then when you open it, What it then shows you is, which I do like, they show you photographs of how it should look in terms of the colours, like a colour guide. Now, whether that's because they're not going to tell you much information within the kit, we shall see. We shall look out for that. But look at those shells, that's quite well done, isn't it? Yeah, I like that. Showing how they're all stowed. Showing inside the turret. Wait a minute, it kind of folds, okay. Folds out, sorry. It's a bit of a weird, like a 6-page A4 sheet that folds out. And then we've got showing inside the turret, showing the top, how the shells are mounted. Showed it from the top and showing it from the bottom, which I found a little bit confusing with the same shells, but anyway. It's nice that you get the colours though, of how it should look colour-wise. Tend to be this sort of an anti-flash white, don't they? So here's your double clutch gearbox, which I spoke of, with the Maybach engine and the propulsion system. So it drives from the back to a gearbox at the front. Isn't that bizarre? I don't think I actually appreciated that. Okay. Yeah, well, I suppose it has to, doesn't it, thinking about it. Me being dumb as well. Yeah, that's not a very direct drive, is it? This is another area where they had these reliability problems, of course, and it was notorious for breaking down. So you've got this torque converting or drive shaft, shall we say, a prop shaft, and then like a transfer box in the middle, presumably just to take the strain off having a very long prop shaft, which probably would have been under too much strain. With the universal joints, of course. You can see that there's definitely an element here of it being potentially a weak point, which is exactly what happened, of course. Then we've got illustration here of the whole of the interior, including the where the driver sits, just ahead of the gearbox, behind the gearbox. From the rear and from the front on the left, from the rear on the right. And then over the page we've got the other side, another example of this. It looks like a really weak link, this, doesn't it? I'm not sure they were clever with this. Well, it's not fair to say that. I've got the benefit of hindsight because I know they weren't reliable, but it doesn't look a technical solution that, you know, I mean, obviously I've talked about my car, the Porsche. It's not the sort of thing that would be considered today, I don't think, even in cars. It's not uncommon amongst some lorries, of course, but it's like almost like a transaxle system where you've got the gearbox at one end and the engine at the other end. So it's quite an unusual system, and I think it's definitely not a strong point for the vehicle, which is why they had all these reliability troubles. But anyway, it shows it all in very good detail there, doesn't it? And it shows you the colours of everything. Very nice, very nice. I actually quite like that, in fairness. That's quite a good start. Come back a bit for you. So I don't think there's too much wrong with that in terms of the product presentation's good, nice and clear. You don't get that with Border Model, do you? Yes, but you see, Jason hates Ryefield, I hate Border. Basically, that's the way it works, that's what we are. But I only hate Border. It's not their plastic, it's their instructions and just their communication skills are almost zero. They're not good enough. This is a big old book. Oh my god. Oh lord. This is going to give me a headache. I think I am going to go through this a bit quicker than normal, because otherwise I'm just going to have a brain explosion. They're probably not going to tell us enough detail to go into too much refined detail anyway. One thing that annoys me about Ryefield, no details, no history whatsoever. That's just stupid. Look at Meng and others. They can do it, can't they? Who's the other one? I've got Sokimura, Tamiya. Somebody else I'm missing. I'm sure one of the Chinese manufacturers apart from Meng do it quite well. I can't think who it is now. But that's not good. That's not good. Anyway, sprue map. A huge map. Oh lord. I don't think there's any metal parts in this. Oh yes, there is a metal barrel. It wasn't made clear, but that's good news. Okay. There is a metal barrel. Comes out in a minute. So there are some metal parts. Don't think there's any resin. I think it's all injection moulded. Which I don't mind. I don't mind that. I think it's going to be, if you're used to Ryefield, it's going to be fairly standard fare. I think it's not going to be too remarkable. Anyway, we'll skip over all this because we'll see those sprues. So basically, you start creating your chassis. There's going to be a lot of parts in this. It's very part-heavy kit. Does it say how many parts there are? Let's just have a look. Does it say? I think they should say by law. I think we should know. Doesn't say. I'm guessing this has got about 800 parts. That's a guess. Don't think I'll be far off. Right, so building up all your shock absorbers. A bit closer for this. Shock absorbers, etc. Your suspension, and then you've got your drive sprocket from the transmission here. It's quite strange the way that's presented, actually. It's slightly unusual. And then you're doing it front and rear. Building up your hull, and then your controls at the front for the driver, including the control levers for left and right, accelerator, gears, forward or back, isn't it, basically. Then we've got all the preparation for the interior for the torsion bars where they come across. And then, in fact, you can actually see the driver's pedals there. That's quite cool. The driver's pedals. That's good. Then the aforementioned torsion bars coming in here. Back slightly. Then we've got the seat for the driver at the front. Looks like it's a battery box, I think or a toolbox he's sitting on. Various toolboxes coming in on the interior at the floor. That'll be things like gum cleaning rods, and there'll be wrenches and things, I guess, that go in there normally. Same on the opposite side, various stowage boxes. Then we're going to build up our transmission. This is at the front of the double clutch transmission. Real Achilles heel of this vehicle, I'm afraid, as we know from history. Quite complex, very advanced for its time, it has to be said. Didn't really perfect it, did they, until the 1980s, so that's like 40 years later, really. When they produced the PDK gearbox, of course, which I've got in my car. And of course it was originally introduced in the Porsche 956, 962 series of Le Mans World Endurance Championship Group C cars. They've got a very long title, haven't they? Anyway, I'm digressing. So back to the Tiger. So this is building up these transfer shafts from the transfer box. It seems to have almost like a torque converter box, I guess. That's got to go in there, right next to where the driver sits. Whoops. And then we've got lots and lots of stowage boxes coming in here, all containing lots of tools and various bits of equipment, wrenches. And you're going to need your tools in one of these because you're going to be working on it quite a lot, I think. Breaking down, they did on a regular basis. Great tank when they were working, but that was the problem. Then we've got the some of the rest of the interior. You've got some floor plates for the line around where the transmission is. You can see it a bit more clearly here. So it's got like a clearance area that's like a cutout of the circle to give more clearance when the turret rotates, I suppose. Because don't forget, the turret has this area where the actual crew sit that is a lot lower than the turret itself. Various control and I'm not sure what they are really. It looks like it's electrical relays and controls going in there at the back toward the engine. Then we've got you're building up your engine compartment then. We're going to be working on the engine in a second. So that gets sectioned off with some armour plating by the look of it. You've also got, again, some more internal storage boxes. Then we're going to start building up our engine itself, complete with the flywheel end. And then you've got your cylinder head going in here, putting on your alternators and starter motor alternators, exhaust, main block coming in here. Well, that's the main block here actually. and you've got it here assembled, and you've got your what's that, electrical system, distributors, etc. All old technology at this end, it has to be said. Big Maybach engine. What size was the engine? I'm trying to remember. Was it 4 litres, 6 litres, or was it much more than that? I can't remember. My memory's gone. Again, this is why we need that data, don't we? So you're not going to learn anything history-wise from this. This is what annoys me with the Chinese. It's pathetic. They're just lazy. Okay, so I'm having a go at Ryefield. I'm having a go at Border. You know, Trumpeter and many others. But these are two of the worst culprits, actually. Who's the other one? Great Wall Hobby are not good at this either, are they? He says. Oh, don't turn it into a rant. You were doing so well, behaving yourself. Now you started ranting and raving about instructions. Everybody tunes in on these and they're just waiting for the moment to start. Just have a cup of coffee and be quiet. Carrying on. So yes, building up your engine and building up your engine, you got your flywheel to come on there, you got your intake, you've got cooling fans on the top. You've got your intake hoses, and then you've got your exhaust on the other side, and you've got your drive shaft here that goes to this converter box, transfer box. And just tell you here a bit of clarity, which is cool. Pay attention, but they don't give any descriptions, do they? Yeah. What did we have recently with IBG? Yeah. Super clarity about what things were. Absolutely fantastic. Here, nothing. Okay. You wonder why I get a bit ranty about it. And this is a dearer kit than that was. Then we've got here our cooling system and the cooling fans, the top cooling fans coming up here. You can actually see the fan itself there. And there's one on each side, of course. And a lot of cooling on this vehicle because it's a big engine. And it's a bit like my sports car. It's all crammed in together in a very tight space. Now you can see there's one on either side there. Then we've got all the relevant hoses. This is quite nice the way they've done that, in fairness. That's okay. The hoses all shown, and then you've got this is all your exhaust system at the back. You can actually see the exhaust coming out here. What if it sounds like mine? Probably not. And then you've got your cooling hoses at the top, and you've got your side baffle. It's actually like an armour plated area, actually, I think, isn't it? It's almost like an armour plated crash structure to prevent taking a shot in the engine. Some internal armour plate. And then we've got what looks like smoke canisters, I think it is. Smoke canisters? Am I right in saying that? It looks like it, doesn't it? Looks like smoke canisters to me. In a rack across the one of the kind of an internal spar. Then we're doing the proper exterior part of the sprocket drive wheel, and then you're going to oddly suddenly jump into the 88mm shells for the Krupp 88mm cannon. Big version on this, of course. Lethal gun on this. Lethal. A wicked weapon. One of the best guns of World War II by far. This and the 17-pounder and the Sherman got to be the best guns. And you're building up this entire compartment, of course, complete with armour plate at the side and at the end. And then you're going to drop these in. Sorry, I did too much. Hold on a second. And then you're going to drop these into the main compartment fuss. Then you've got your idler wheel and your parts of your transmission, which looks really good. Look at that. And then this, I need you on full zoom for this. Look at this. They've actually got the gear and pinion gears here. Look at that. The gear and the pinion gear actually look like they probably won't rotate, but they look very realistic, don't they? That's a little bit OTT with the detail. That's typical Ryefield. And you've got a polycap going in here for all the wheels. You're going to make lots of these, of course, and repeat many, many times. Repeat many, many times. And do the same on the other side. The interleaving wheels are going on. Polycaps again. Then you've got your rear bulkhead armour plate, internal and external, and your exhaust exits, complete with their armour plated, the big armour plated covers that go on, stop and taking around. and it's got some bolt heads you need to cut off here when assembling. Please cutting red. Please cutting red. Come on, they can do better English than that, surely. I get better English in my local Chinese than that, I can assure you. Much better. Then we've got the jack. This is actually to jack the tank up, like a car jack on a big scale. Goes at the back. And then you've got these clavises for the cabling, tow cables. Then you've got your actual eyes for towing eyes. And then you've got a machine gun. Is it MG 43 on these, is it? I'm not sure that's... I might be getting that wrong. MG 34 or 43, or is it something else? Can't remember. Then we're building up the top of the hull. Upside down at the moment, of course, with your machine gun going through there. And then you've got your turret hatches area with all the handles and the air filters going on. Then you've got your Funken, your radio. Building up your radio system. And then you're going to put all these hatches in and drop them in, obviously, at the front of the top plate. It looks quite like the standard Tiger at this point, doesn't it? Until you see the sloped armour. And then you get your radio, which goes in underneath on the underside of this top plate, of course. The top deck. And then you've got your towing cables, which I think... Are they plastic on this? We'll see that later. Tow cables and your barrel cleaning rods all going on the side. Machine gun port cover going on there. Idle wheel going on at the back. And then bringing the top of the hull and the bottom of the hull together, the top deck and the main hull together. Then we've got what looks like some, I'm going to have some photo etch here for the filter covers, for the fans. And then we've got to build 90 tracks per side. 90 per side. Yikes! Then you wonder why people like Jason get a bit irritated. Yes, that's going to be quite a lot of work. Okay. So you definitely need to listen to an interesting podcast or something, because you're going to have to clean up all these parts, and then you're going to have to do 90s. That's 180 of those you've got to do. That's a lot, I've got to say. Anyway. You've got your filter covers here for your main fan covers, cooling fans. Excuse me. And then you've got your mud guards going in at the back. Your hatch cover, engine hatch cover, going on top there. Which is, you can have it hinged, tilted open if you wish, or closed. And then we've got all the various mesh grills that go around all around the top of the deck, at the engine deck at the back. And we've got various brackets that support the mudguard brackets, aren't they? For the mudguard mud shield down the side, armour plating shield. Yeah, it does both, mud shield and armour plating. You've got your headlight here, and then you've got your support brackets for what's that for? Support brackets for the mudguards, shields. And then you're going to start working on your turret. Definitely going to be the start of the turret interior here. You're going to build the mounting for the 88mm gun. Lots of fine parts. Don't know what any of them are. No descriptions. So it can't get a 10 for that reason. It's not going to get a 10, however good the kit is. I despair with Ryefield and Great Wall Hobby and Border and others that are just not doing this properly. The illustrations are lovely, but you need some writing. People need to understand what it is. If this was done by someone like Katari, Wingnut Wings, IBG, Tamiya or Zokimura, you'd know exactly chapter and verse what you're building here. Every part would be labelled. But anyway, so we've got here the gunner's seating position, and he's got the traversing wheel, the trim wheel for the moving the turret. Then you've got all the internal parts on the floor of the turret, and then you're going to drop that into it, the actual gunner's seating position. I think the commander seat is separate, isn't it, on these? Then you're going to build up the base or the back of your gun mounting breech of the gun here. If you're 88mm, and lots and lot of small parts. Really gone over the top of me. And then we have got the intermediate. We've got the gun recoil suppression shockers here, shock absorbers for the gun recoil, and then you're going to put all that in together, complete with the guard and the dampening spring. We've got 2 dampening springs. I think there's one on either side. Not sure about that. Putting those in there, and then basically your breech and the lower back part of the gun is sort of finished. And then you've got to put in all these other parts. So you've got the back of the seat, like a backrest for the seat, all sorts of other control parts, and again I'm guessing. And then you've got the racks here for at the back. You've got these are more racks for the ammunition. Go at the back of the turret, and very similar to what I've got in my Tamiya one actually, which only cost me 15 quid by the way, but that's another story. Putting all those in on both sides, and then you put in all your shells, of course, 88mm shells, ready for loading. And then on this one, as we've seen with Ryefield before, you have an external and an internal surface for the actual turret that slot in together, outer wall and inner wall. I guess the inner wall is like basically armour plating. And then you've got the glasses coming together there, dropping that top turret part onto the main functioning interior. Then you've got your hatches going on here, the top hatches. You've got your brackets here for all your trap links on the side, the rear hatch, rear access hatch and emergency escape hatch. And then you've got all the various handles and little bits of hydraulics and little dampers and things for opening the hatches. And there we have the top hatch itself showing. I think that's the is that the commander's hatch or the gunner's hatch? I think it's the commander's hatch actually. There's a smaller one on these, I could be wrong. I think the gunner has the bigger hatch because he sits. Where does the gunner sit on the right? We'll see that in a second anyway. Then you're going to build up all your viewing ports around the cupola itself. Machine gun going on there, which looks like an MG34 for sure. I think that's 34 this time. Easy to recognise. So I'm thinking the other one that's in the actual front of the tank is a different gun. And then you've got you've got the little swivelling, rotating, pivoting hatch that goes on top of the main. I must be wrong on this. Surely that's the commander's hatch that's got all the viewports on it, so you've got maximum visibility. Anyway, we'll see that in a minute. But then you've got the final roof of the hatch of the top of the turret coming on there. All your spare tracks going to get mounted. Bringing in your metal gun barrel here. And there's a spring which it suppresses. That's quite cool on the model. An actual spring. Is that plastic or metal, I wonder? We'll come to that in a second. That'll be interesting to see. I hope it's metal. Suppression spring, recoil spring. And then you've got the outer sort of mantlet mounting for the gun. You bring your gun down onto your top deck. You've got a couple of extras to fit, which are what is that? I think they're like things like mirrors for the driver, and that's it. That is actually the end of the construction. My God! Oh yeah, no, I almost forgot. There is a 3D printed part actually. It's got a 3D printed muzzle brake. That's cool. So they've done some nice stuff, haven't they? And then we've got, at least we've got some descriptions. Ardennes, so this is Battle of the Bulge, December 1944. And then the Abteilung, that was the Abteilung 501. The Abteilung 505, this is before the Ardennes offensive. And then we've got another Abteilung 501 here. Again, a bit more green on this one, slightly different colours. Also in the Ardennes. And then a second 501 also in the Ardennes, which looks like a very similar scheme to the one I've got actually. And then on the back, 1945, the Felden Halle Heavy Tank Battalion in Germany, fighting out the last days of the war, not very successfully, it has to be said. And then there's another Ardennes one, which has got the winter snow type camo on it, which is nice. I like that one. Bit of both. That's a cool scheme. I quite like that one. I'd be very tempted to go with that. Unfortunately, that is the SS Schwer Panzer Abteilung, so maybe less said about them, the better. Well, actually, it's exactly, you're going to know exactly what I'm going to say now. You can almost fill in your own blanks. And I should put a quiz question and say what we're going to say now after what I've been through the instructions. Complete lack of detail, very poor English where there is some, but the images are very good. And they are, yeah, the images are very clear. It's quite logical. It doesn't they're not overcrowding every stage. So there's a lot of steps there. Does it give a number of how many steps? Yeah, there's actually 56 steps to build the tank. Quite like it. Just wish they'd made a bit more effort. So 8.5 out of 10 for the instructions, I'm afraid. Let's see if the plastic can get it back. I know it will. However, some of you, my friend Jason, will get frustrated when they see repetition and multiples of the same thing. Where did we start with this thing? Good grief. Right, there are going to be some multiple sprues, of course, so I'm going to start with the tracks, just to get that out of the way, I think. The horrible bit. I'm very my control of them. So let's zoom in on these tracks then. And there's 2 bags of this. There's 180 of these. Oh, crumbs. Here we go. You better have some good music or a nice podcast to listen to when you're working on this. Otherwise your mental health is going to take a bit of a hit, I think. But of course, I can just move that out a second. But of course, the actual quality of these, in terms of the moulding standards, is very, very high. As you can see. And those are really, really nice, aren't they? Yeah, those are really nicely moulded. They're crisp, they're accurate, they're consistent. Really nice, really nice. But awfully hard work, you know, to have so many, to have that many of them. A lot of tracks is that, 180 of them, jeez. There's more tracks than there are shells in the tank. So we'll put them to one side. Then let's have a look at the bathtub. Oh, it is a full bathtub. I didn't realise it was. Okay. It had you building it up. I didn't realise it was. All right. In a second, I think we might have had a problem. Have I misunderstood something here? I thought it would have you building it up at the beginning. I didn't think there was a full bathtub style. Well, it shows it both ways. It shows it as... It doesn't show a full bathtub in here. Here we go. It doesn't show the full bathtub. It shows you building it up, building the sides up and then sticking them in to make the hole. And it shows it coming together there. It doesn't show it as a full bathtub. So that's a little bit confusing for starters. That's clearly a full bathtub, which I'm presuming is to save you time. Maybe this is if you don't want to do the full interior, but I find that utterly confusing straight away to me. Let's have a look at it in a minute. Let's have a look at what we have, so at least you can see it. That's kind of my job, isn't it, really? To show you. Yeah, okay, well, it's very nice, but it's not what it shows in the... That's very confusing to me. I think there's 2 ways of building it, and I think they've gone and put, again, it's going to be like 2.5 kits in it, I can tell. Now, if we look at that, get that out of the way, as we look at it, there's lots of detail. And the moulding is really nice, as we've come to expect from them. But I'm just totally baffled, because that's not the way it shows the construction in the instructions. I'm going to pop that back in its bag. Stewart, and then we're going to put that together. And I'm going to look and see, I'm going to zoom you back to this, I'm going to look and see whether we actually have, yes, you see I'm right. This is why people like Jason get cross, isn't it? This is why Ryefield are a bit confusing. They're here. So you don't actually have to, if you follow the instructions, you build up with your sides. Is there actually a central section to the oval? Or is it just bad instructions where they've shown something? I'm not very confused. I'm going to have a look again because that's so confusing. Am I being thick? Oh no, it shows you dropping them in. Okay, no, it's... No, not being thick. It's very confusing. So it shows it in this image. Let me show you the actual images so you can understand why I'm getting really confused now. So in this image it kind of shows it that you are dropping it into a full bathtub. But in the prior images, it shows it as though you are actually... It shows it as a separate piece. Is that just cut away? Is that image just cut away to try and make it clearer? Because it isn't clear, they make it less clear. You see what I'm saying? Look at that image now. That's not a full bathtub, is it? It's got no starboard side. And yet we have one. I'm just absolutely confused by this already. I think that they've just done that very, very poorly, actually. I can't see any big piece that would be the floor central section where you have the option to build it up. So they've shown, like, what they've effectively done is shown a cutaway without making it clear that it's a cutaway, and then showing it as it actually is in the next step of the instructions. That is bafflingly confusing. Why have they done that? Oh! I'm going to end up feeling like Jason at the end of this. What's going on? What did they do that for? Anyway, let's put it away and move on. That is a very, very strange thing for them to have done. You can clearly see there's a conflict in the instructions. One shows it as a bathtub, and one shows it as though you're building it up separately to make your own hull. Let's have a look at this. Now, one of these is going to be the exterior, one's the interior. And I believe that that's the exterior for sure. So this is quite important as a piece. So this is the exterior of the turret. And the other piece we'll see in a minute is the interior. Okay. And you can see by the welds that it is indeed the exterior. And they've done those welds quite nicely, actually. I think that's nice. Nothing wrong with that. Again, weld. Very good. Okay. Right, now then. Oh, sorry, I missed a bit. Actually, there's two parts here. What I missed is your jig. This is the jig for building your 180 tracks. It should actually go back in that bag, which I have omitted to do. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So, just have a little check through on this, because we've got what looks like a lot of these 88mm cannon shells. And sorry, just bear with me a second. And these are, yes, again, a bit repetitive, but I think they're going to be nicely moulded. Now, we did have an issue with these in the past, about which I moaned about, and I'm going to be looking out for it, and I've got a bad feeling about this. I think that Ryefield have made a bit of a boo-boo, because we had the Meng, remember, we had the Meng kit on the Tiger. Was that the King Tiger? I'm losing track. Anyway, one of them, Meng, and moulded these really cleverly and not put the sprue gate attachment point at the base of the shell when you need to see the striker point. And unfortunately Ryefield, and I remember it now, yet Ryefield have done the same again. They've blundered here. This is bad. This is a bit like Tamiya and Airfix moulding their Spitfires Mark 9s with the attachment point right in the middle of where the exhaust fishtail weld goes, and this is the same problem here. That is a terrible place to put your attachment point. Really bad, because what you're going to have to do, you're going to have completely smooth backed, smooth bottomed, not realistic base on the shell instead of it having a circular striker point. That is a mistake. Anyway, we'll move on. So they're going to lose another mark for that, I think. Or a quarter of a point anyway. But the actual shells themselves look beautiful, but that is really stupid what they've done there. Far better if they put it somewhere in the middle. Or they'd put some, I don't know, 3D printed or metal ones in or something. That you're not going to get the base of your shells looking realistic. It's going to be a nightmare. Anyway, then we've got some various other parts. I'm not going to try and guess what everything is, but we've got some dampers here. Look like they are the dampers, shock absorbers. And then we've got, this looks like our flywheel for the engine. No, it's not the flywheel, is it? I remember now, this is the part of the drive sprocket, the interior part of the drive sprocket from the transmission. And then we've got fans, we've got the seat. I mean, the moulding is beautiful. Look at that seat. That's where the gunner sits. That's fantastic. You've got a beautiful fan there, curling fan. I mean, the moulding is beyond question. But it does beg the question why they've gone. This is just bad design that I'm complaining about here, where they put these moulding in at the base is a really dumb thing to do. That's poor. That's not been thought through. A modeller would not have designed it like that. So that's a bit of a down mark for them. Kind of annoys me, that does, actually, because it's same mistakes again. Not, repeating history really. Not good history. Anyway, let's put that back in there with the other one. That's the first sprue we looked at. I hope they're going to improve, because that is some poor design. We've seen poor design from Airfix, and we've seen it even from Tamiya, things like that. So that is another one, I'm afraid, that hasn't thought through what they're doing before they've implemented it. Right, got a bag here of all sorts. And it really is like a bag of all sorts of other stuff. So we've got all the pins. I mean, this is where it gets laborious, the Ryefield. Instead of doing link and length tracks, This is why people like mention Jason again. People like him complain. You can see why, can't you? I mean, how many of these have got to do? I'll tell you how many. 180! And it's a lot of work. You've got to clean it up, you've got to cut it off, you've got to clean it up. They could have done link and length like Tamiya do, but no, they want to do movable tracks and all this nonsense. Whether they really are movable is questionable at the end, and you've got all that work to do, So I find that a bit, yes, it's nice, it's detailed, blah blah, but ultimately not really necessary, and it's a bit of a faff, to be honest. Now, Stewart will be watching this, I won't send him any more models, he does nothing but moan. No, he knows me. It's the OCD in me. Right, now then, let's have a look at the bit of, a nice bit of 3D resin printing, which I think is going to be very nice, if I can get into it. Where the gloves really come in handy. There we go. Look at that. It's rather a strange colour. It's almost like a brick colour. Look at that. There is your gun muzzle brake. Flash eliminator, if you will. It's nice, isn't it? Yes. Yes, I like that. That's very, very nice. Nothing wrong with that. Pop that back into the little bag. Lose anything? Then we have our gun barrel, which I'll show you. A metal turned barrel. A very, very nice one indeed. Well, this is nice. Nothing wrong here. Even got all the all the bolt points in the where the gun goes into its outer wall, shall we say, outer tubing. That's very nice. That's all good. Even better if we get the camera to focus. That would be really cool. Thank you very much. I don't know. A bit slow at times, aren't you? It's had a bit of a rest, this camera, because over on the other channel with all this car driving and stuff, it's been done by another camera, two of the cameras actually. Although I have to tell you, actually, I'm going to mention this. The DJI Osmo camera, which I had it on the front seat of the car on the last trip, the last one I filmed. Although that's not the order you've seen them in. But anyway, I did some filming. I didn't use that camera at all in the end and came back home. When I took it out and put it on the desk here, we've got a fault. We've got the little flick out screen. It's only about 1 inch by 2 inches that flicks out, and everything's controlled on the screen. And it wouldn't self-center. Now, I didn't drop this. I didn't knock it. It didn't fall even off the car seat or anything like that. It just sat on the car seat and my other stuff, not moving around. And then when we got back, whether a little bit of motion occurred and it tried to switch itself on or it flicked on, I've no idea, but it did not incur any kind of impact or abuse of any sort, and it's now like at 40 degrees, and it won't self-center. This is defective, no question. Really bad, actually. I'm going to put that one in that one. I think we need less bags here. Makes a lot of sense doing that. Right, that's that one. Then we have I got my wish here. I wanted a metal spring for the gun barrel, and here it is. That's nice as well. They haven't done it enough. Sometimes they do them in a plastic spring, don't they? Which I don't like. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. So at this time we have actually got a proper metal spring. So that's the suppression for the recoil on the gun barrel, the main gun barrel. So that's good news. Yeah. Anyway, so just going back to the faulty DJI Osmo 3, I'm afraid that's had to go back because that is just crazy. You know, if I'd have dropped it, it would be understandable, but I didn't have anything like that. I've treated it absolutely with great care, and it's just gone haywire. It's weird. It doesn't. It's almost like it's something to do rather than something mechanical. It's like it's something to do with its. Like it needs a reset or something. I don't know. Can't say I was too impressed with that. It's a bit fiddly to use as well, if I'm being brutally honest. So that, again, that didn't go down too well either. Right, let's get that bag into there. Items in that outer. Then we've got a set of poly caps, which I don't need to show you because they're just usual black poly caps. It's for the main wheels. Then we've got, again, I don't need to open this either really. It's just the I'll zoom in a bit. It's just all the periscope ports, the viewing ports, clear parts. Don't really need to get those out because they are so tiny and kind of, you know, you don't see any distortion or clarity or anything. It's just they're just there to be viewed, aren't they? Really, they're so tiny. Then we've got some cable for our towing cables, which is real metal cable, which I do like, proper braided cable. That's nice. Yeah, I like that. Put that there as well. And then what have we got? And then for whatever reason they decided to put this in with this bag, which I can't quite see the reason for. Just some very small sprues. I think it's things that are particular to this set because it's got the added full interior detail. Radio gear, here we go. Yeah, it's some of the interior sprues. So it's radio gear, the funk, the funk and controls. I think it's radio gear. Is it fire control? It might be fire control actually. Some of the internal bracing. Not too sure what the other parts are, but again, as we know, it doesn't tell us anything. But the moulding is beautiful. Absolutely as good as it gets, really. There's no flash. They're cleverly using these ejector pin lugs to avoid putting any ejector pins on the actual parts. That's that one. And then we've got, I can't help but feel, I've seen these before on the other kits actually. One or two of these sprues look very familiar. Sprue D, thank you very much. Including, you've got all the tools there. This is all the tools, isn't it? So you've got the handle for winding the jack, you've got the spade, you've got a hatchet, and you've got like a lump hammer. Then you've got your the ends of your towing cables for the eyes. And then we've got various bits. We've got the clavises, and we've got wire cutters, barrel cleaning rods here, headlamp at the front, and the jack, parts of the jack itself that goes at the back. That's nice, isn't it? Quite like that one. That's quite a decent sprue actually. Very good. Pop that back in there. Nothing wrong with that one. And then finally, in this little bag, set of bags I should say really, we have got, this is all the plumbing and the exhaust, internal plumbing and exhaust, not the external. So you've got various coolant pipes. Then you've got your, this here is your exhaust, where the exhaust splits as it comes out of the engine. And you've got the end of the flywheel there. Whoops, flywheel. Cover. Is it the cover or is it the wheel itself? Yeah, it's not the clutch, is it? Flywheel. And then we've got all these little bits of, various bits of piping and cooling, and again the beautiful moulding, absolutely superb. You've got some corrugated tube in here, probably parts of the exhaust I suspect. That's really nicely done. This is a lovely sprue actually. Some fine parts here. Yeah, that's really good. All these various bits of tubing and cooling. Very nice. And then, before I forget, we've got here our photo etch. Just get some focus, that would be nice. There we go, the photo etch, which we will take a look at. I can get them done properly. Try to avoid the sticky getting anywhere near those decals. That we don't want. Oh, it's a tight fit. Crumbs. Right, so here's our all the grills. Really nice, the grills. Absolutely brilliant. Those look very realistic actually as well, scale like. And then there's a second one which has got lots of kind of brackets and mainly support brackets and things like that. Hinges. Some of those little brackets I think that support the armour plated sort of mud guards, if you like, the shields down the side, protect the tracks. Well, when you see it, actually this is interesting, when you see the artwork it doesn't really protect the tracks that much, does it, when you see it like that? Not quite low enough. Is that correct? Interesting. And then we've got our decals. And some of these look very familiar from the other, that 008, I'm sure that's the same one that I've got, I think. It's certainly similar to the markings on the Tamiya anyway. And these are all very sort of low key. And yeah, not a lot of markings obviously on a Tiger, King Tiger. There is also though a second, let me zoom you back. There is a second bag here, so I need to just draw your attention to. And what it is, it's for all the shells. Oh, here we go. Get ready for this. Now I've got to get this back into this bag with great dexterity. This is not going to be an easy task, I can tell you. But for whatever reason, they've been a bit mean with their bag, making it a very tight fit indeed. So I'm going to... That is what I'm going to do then. Classic example of doing it in reverse. Bear with me a second, because this has got to be done. Can't leave it till later, not really. Okay. It's got to be done carefully. Protecting those decals from the adhesive. There we go, we've done it. How I get the cover sheet in is another matter, because I couldn't get them both in at the same time. Okay. Done it. Done it. Success. This is not easy. This is really stupidly tight bag. Crazy, actually. I think most people, not blowing my own trumpet, but I think a lot of people would have flunked this. And I nearly did. Not easy at all. That's not recommended like that at all. Right. Now then. Phew! Well, that was more difficult than it should have been, to be perfectly honest. Gosh. All this. That is one bag. One bag and it's still got all this stuff in it. Right, I want to show you this because this is the decals. Got this right. This is the decals for the shells, I think. Stencils, basically. This bag isn't quite as tight as that one was relative to the actual decal set. Bear with me a second, I need my other glasses for this. The big ones. The modelling glasses. Yeah, I'm right, it's mainly for the shells. Okay, it looks like they are showing a striker pin I talked about on the base of the shells. I think they're doing it with a decal. I think they're cheating. Cheating and deceiving. Let's just have a look at this. Bear with me a second. I want to see how it's done. Where was it? In the middle? I think you need to know this. You need to know how they've gone about this. I remember they started putting the shells in at quite a strange moment. I was looking through the actual guide. Here we go. No, it doesn't tell you. Oh, yes it does. Yes it does. Yeah, I'm right. So, let me zoom you in so you can see what I mean. So, look carefully at this illustration now where my thumb is. So that's the striker point is on the base. So they're getting around this problem I've shown you of having the sprue gate attachment point right on the base of the shell. They're getting around it by putting a decal on it. Not quite as good as having it actually, you know, physical. Because they do have a physical, like a ring around it, and a depression. But that's how they're getting around it. And then you can see there all those stencil decals. So that is what that's all about, and that's their excuse, I suppose. So maybe, I don't really like it, but maybe I'm going to have to give them back their little quarter of a point that I took off for the moulding. Still not my preference, I'll bet, to be honest. Okay. At least now we know what it's all about. So those are decals. Basically just mainly for the shells, and there's a lot of them, of course. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 3, that's 18, 36, 40, about, I think there's about 100 decals, not shells. So I'm thinking there's about 45 shells, something like that, 46 shells. Something in that order, I would say. Right, bear with me a tick because I need to get these back in. We don't want to be doing anything that's going to damage them. Right, there we are, we're in. That went in much easier because they gave a slightly bigger bag, that's why. Silly that small bag was. Right, well that's that bag. It's a marathon, this is, an absolute marathon. By the way, I'm sitting a bit too high, aren't I? I just realised. Let's go down a bit. Too high for the camera, isn't it? Although this position I'm in now is a bit too low for actually modelling in. That was the modelling position. I assume the position. The mosquito work. Oh, don't get excited. Chris Jones's heart rate will go through the roof when he hears me mention that. He's like my little Jiminy Cricket, my conscience. It's reminding me that I need to get on with this mosquito. Get on with it. The hell's stopping you? Just get a move on. Now the problem is, you don't see my workload on YouTube. Anyway. Bomb! I bet you're all shouting he's forgotten. Left them out. That's annoying. Let's put that in there as well. Thank you very much. It's a bit silly that they crammed everything into one bag like they did, but there we go. Back in. Got there in the end, didn't we? Right, so let's crack on now. Let's have a look. So here we've got the turret, basically, all the turret parts and the gun mounting area for the breech, etc. And it's the internal, the smooth internal part of the turret that is, basically the armour plating, if you will, or the armoured shell. I don't know if that's true, if this is realistic or not, if I'm honest. And then you've obviously got the floor here. The floor with lots and lots of mounting points for all the different brackets and for the ammunition storage. And then you've got the top, the roof of the, and on the inside, I'll show you both sides because it's quite perted on the roof. There's a lot of brackets and mounting points there, aren't there? Heck of a lot. And yeah, and then you've got your the little glass. It looks quite small, doesn't it? The sort of mantlet glasses at the front, where the mantlet goes for the gun. And then we've got some really, really excellent moulding here. If I flick it over, let me show you this. Look at that. You've got all of your various little brackets, and you've got your MG34 machine gun. Goes on the top. And you've got parts for the other gun as well. Was that the same one? That's the same one, isn't it? But look how fine this is. I think I need to zoom you a bit more so you get the full effect. That's pretty impressive. And then we've got all the sort of the gas filters and things, and then you've got your hatches. Top hatch and rear hatch there, this one. It's very square. And then you've got your cupola, parts of your cupola ring, and you've got your flick down the internals of the, is that the internal or the external? The external, isn't it? External hatch, access hatch at the back, and then your mantlet glasses for the gun. Lovely, lovely sprue that. And then down here you've got all the little, these are all the periscope, armour plating around the periscope glass. Very nice indeed, actually. That's a nice sprue. So, by the way, when I gave my October update, and I had all these kits out, including all the ICM ones, and I looked at them and I was thinking in my mind, which should I do first? And I thought, oh, I don't fancy doing this Tiger because it's going to be a big job, I'll do that last. And then my common sense kicked in and said, in my head, said, you're right, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare to do a long review. Do that one first, and then you've got your ICM kits, which are quite small, most of them. Smaller in terms of parts, etc. and detail. Those would be nice as a wind down. Because I knew that this is going to be a tricky one. It's going to be so many parts. I have to say, in fairness, though, that there's not the repetition. I'm saying that, I must be speaking too soon here. There's not the repetition. Look at this now. Inside, isn't it? Outside and inside. Yeah. So there's not the repetition that we had in some of these Tiger 1 kits from Ryefield Model. In fairness, it's not as bad as that. So this, what I was looking at is the side walls of the lower hull. But of course it's the internal side walls. This is what I was trying to get in my head as I went quiet there. I was thinking, why have we got a second side wall? And the answer is that this one I'm about to show you is the interior side. Yeah, this is the interior side where you're going to see all the torsion bars and the internals of the suspension. Can you see that? A lot of detail, and it just looked in my mind. I thought, hang on a minute, or have they done a repetition? But it would seem not. It would seem not. So this is where your mounting and your torsion bar is going to go across on the floor, of course. Then we've got the main top deck, complete with all the teeth for the rotating ring, turret ring. And then we've got our access hatches, all very beautifully moulded, I've got to say, in fairness. Yeah, I'm starting to sense this is not as silly as a kit, as a concept. It's not as silly as the Tiger 1 that we saw, where we had 3 different versions of the turret and you only used one of them, which was just crazy. Seems to me that here we are going to use them. Here, by the way, if you look very carefully, it's quite clever the way they've utilised the space to have a second sprue within a part. So here's the top the top of the deck of the upper chassis, and then you've actually got another sprue within it. It's quite clever. And here, these are actually the gun barrel cleaning rods. That's quite well done. Quite clever, actually. I like that. I like that. That's a nice sprue. Beautiful. It's starting to win me over, this kit. I've had 1 or 2 issues with it, but 1 or 2 of them are just down to clarity. And a couple of the other things are just... It's just clarity, a lot of it. It's communication and clarity. You know, I have to say that when I see instructions where you've got to try and second guess everything and become an interpreter, and no, sorry, that's not what I'm paying for. I'm paying the manufacturers to do that stuff. I also expect them to do some basic research about the history of the vehicle. If they haven't done that, it does bring into question your confidence of how much they actually understand, whether all they've done is LiDAR scan a big tank. And a lot of manufacturers are guilty of that, I think. Naming names at this particular juncture, but I think you know who I'm talking about. I've mentioned them already. Right, look at this now then. Ooh, this is the engine. Engine gearbox parts. Look at this. There is some beautiful moulding here. Yes, I don't think that, no disrespect intended, but I'm not sure Airfix would manage this. Have a look at this. Look at the fineness of that. Wow. That is impressive. I mean, just look at the fineness of the way they've got those grills there. That's amazing. By the way, you can hear the rain outside is getting quite heavy and it's getting a bit blustery, etc. So please don't be alarmed if you hear my door creaking. But just look at this moulding. Now that's the kind of finesse that Airfix has. I'm afraid Airfix is a subcontractor in India that we've talked about in the past regarding the Stalwart just could not attain. Yeah, just could not attain. So, yeah, I don't think you get I mean, that's like 3D resin printed. It's so fun. Look at it. It's got no flash or filling on it at all. It's absolutely beautiful. Just to show you on the other side, give you another perspective of it. Look at that. That's good. That's absolutely superb. So you've got to give credit where it's due, and that is worthy of credit. That's worthy of a lot of credit. And then we've got over here some really, really nicely moulded parts. I think the moulding is as good as anybody, Ryefield. Literally as good as anyone. Fantastic. But there are other companies coming up, like, and we talked recently about IBG, who did that beautiful Spitfire set, which, yeah, was a bit stunning to me. Maybe a bit OTT, you might argue, but as a demonstration of what can be done at a small scale, that was remarkable. But this is the state of the art, quite literally, in 1/35th armour kit moulding, and I stress moulding, because you know I've got reservations about some other things about this company. Ryefield, they're good in absolutely knockout in some areas, and if only they just pull their socks up. Make a bit more effort with the instructions, guys, and you'll be one of the best. There we go. Transmission components there, all very gorgeous. Really liking that. That's one of the nicest sprues on a 35th scale armour kit I've ever seen. Just in terms of the finesse of those moulds. Just absolutely staggering. Not quite so much finesse in the bag. It's giving me some trouble here. Again. Right. Got it? Got it. Yeah, fun with my bags, don't I? Right, still a lot to go. Jeez. As I say, it's got to be 800 parts here. It's just endless. It's on and on and on and on. Okay, so here we've got a lot of the internal components and stowage boxes and the racks for the 88mm shells. See what you think. So obviously these are your shell racks, the armour piercing and high explosive shells. You've got this beautiful hatched flooring for the crew to walk on in the area, and obviously the cutout is for where the turret rotates. It's got this like nailed effect, the grip, and then you've got all these stowage boxes. Got a bit more nailing there. All your stowage boxes. And there's lots and lots of different types of stowage box. Really nice, and you've got the top part of the fans here, the housing for the fans, cooling fans. And then you've got the internal armour plate that goes around the engine, like a box section. Very nice sprue. Perhaps not the most interesting sprue in terms of the parts that are on it, but very, very well done. Oh, I should just, actually, let me just show you one thing I skimped on. A universal joint it is, I think. Right, it's going to be dead centre of the image as you look at it. A universal joint, look at that. It's nice, isn't it? Done that really well. Yeah, it's pretty good sprue, is that? I'm quite impressed. Pop that in there. Move on. Nice and easy, that wasn't overloaded, that's why. It's going to be a jack in a box this, I'll never get this back in. It'll probably take me about half a day to get it back as it was. I'll do that off camera. Right, now then. More beautiful fine parts. They're just so good at this, aren't they, these guys, in terms of the moulding. And the plastic seems fairly decent as well, I think. Although the sprue is a little bit floppy, it's a little bit on the floppy side. Perhaps not the hardest of plastics. But look at some of these. You can see here we've got some slide moulding. The dead giveaway is the way it has the bridge effect on the end of the sprue. So if we come over and have a look what that is, he says. Get the camera to focus. Yes, there we go. So you've got some parts that are like a union, I think it is. Am I right in saying that? A little bit of focus trouble. Yeah, it's like a union, and it's been slide moulded to give you the detail. And look at the detail of the finesse of these parts. You know, again, sadly, because I keep moaning, I know, but we've no idea what these parts are because it doesn't tell you. And if only they could do that, and it could have full descriptions, that would be absolutely brilliant. It'd be like a history lesson, wouldn't it? In miniature, an engineering history lesson. So many parts, and we just don't really know what they all are. Is that a rangefinder? Not sure. So I was looking at this one here. It looks like it might be a rangefinder, but I'm not sure. It's just so hard to know what all these parts are without having some explanation, really. Seems a shame. They go to all the trouble of moulding it in such detail, but they don't tell us what they are, so we're none the wiser. But it's very, very fine moulding, no question about that. Absolutely superb. I'll tell you what that is. That's the like the little rack and pinion that I mentioned earlier. That was in the drive sprocket and the internals. Can you see it? That's amazing. That's gorgeous. Huh, incredible. And then you've got some other basic things like the floor of the the turret there, where the mounting is. The mounting is for where the breech is, and that's part of the breech mounting here. Okay, so get that back in its bag. Yeah, Storm Amy has definitely arrived. I don't know if you can hear it. I'm sure you can actually, because my mic usually picks that up quite well. It's arrived in the UK with a vengeance. It's getting windier and windier. You can hear the rain pounding against the garage door. Proper October storm. Let's hope that it all blows itself out in the next week or two before I go play any more Spitfires. So if I got cancelled again, that's going to get really annoying. I feel like you'll be thinking I'm just making it up. This is the third attempt to go flying in a Spitfire. So I'm a great believer in third time lucky, so I think it'll be okay. I think we'll be fine. What I'd like is a nice, crisp, cool, sunny day. That'd be really nice. Okay. So what have we got then? We have got the back, the rear armour plated, the rear wall of the tank, with all the mountings for the exhausts. Sorry, that's the internal side, not the exterior. So it's the internal side of the rear bulkhead, the rear wall. And then you've got your internals. You've also got a plastic gun in addition to the metal gun, so there is a bit of a waste of part you don't need there. But some people don't like working with the metal, so at least you've got the option. You've got the outer tubing of the gun here, and you've got where it goes into the breech mounting there, and then the breech itself. Look at that, that's good, isn't it? The actual breech of the gun itself is here. Look at that, fantastic. Yes, that's nice, that's very nice. And this is all basically gun and breech we're looking at here. All the various components. There's also the machine gun here. This is the machine gun. Looks like an MG43 to me, that one, not an MG34. I think it is. And then you've got your mounting through the mantlet, sort of socket that goes into the main body of the turret. And various pivot points here for the gun itself. Just flick it the way up, it probably makes more sense. Pivot points, as I mentioned, just there. And you've got your shock absorber suppression dampers here. recoil suppression, I mean. Very nice, and there is in fact also a plastic slide moulded. So this is why I wonder why they bother really, because they've slide moulded here a really nice muzzle brake, which looks pretty good. I presume it has a, yeah, this will be the actual, where my finger is. That's the actual end of the muzzle, where the actual shell comes out, and it's got like an open slide moulded section here. So you don't really need the actual the 3D resin version, do you really? It's not strictly necessary, but it's beautifully moulded, that. A lovely, lovely sprue, no question. So there is a little bit of repetition here and there, but it's not like we've seen on some of these other Ryefields where you've got like 50% of another kit or more that you're just never going to use. It's just they've given you a bit of metal and they've given you a bit of resin instead of just doing it all in injection moulded plastic. And put the price up a bit. So, now we've got the engine, my back engine. V12 wasn't it, I think? Am I right? Maybe we'll know when we look at this. It might be more obvious. Or it might not be. 1, 2, 3, yeah, it's 12 I think, V12. Okay, so it was I think it's a petrol engine on these, isn't it? I think I'm right in saying. There we go. Very nice. Nicely moulded. Nothing wrong with this at all. Look at that, you can see the whole engine there, look. The end plate of the engine shows the whole sort of shape of it. And you got your flywheel here. And your housing, this is where the drive prop shaft comes out. Down to the transfer box, it's a rather strange arrangement that it has. Exhausts coming out there, exhausts. Then you got some of your cooling. Again, some of the cooling pipes and unions. Quite a few bits of cooling and pipe work here. Nice, very, very nice. Again, really crisply moulded, you know. You've got some this is slide moulded again, as you can see. I'm not sure what they are. Are they the magnetos? Like a magneto? Or is that the carburetors? I think it might be carburetors. Again, we'll have to guess. So it's annoying, you know. It's annoying from a perspective, especially if you're the sort of person that has an inquisitive mind and likes to learn stuff from these model kits, really. And they're not telling you anything, so you're not going to learn much. It's just part A and part B sort of thing, you know. Kind of frustrates me a little bit, to be honest. I wonder what score it's going to get at the end. It's a real shame, I think, every time I do one of these, because I look at the plastic in amazement. And I look at the instructions in kind of in horror, really. I wish they could change their ways and elevate themselves to where they ought to be so easily. They're doing the hard part brilliantly, and they're doing the easy part stupidly badly. It's crackers. Makes no sense at all. Right, here we have got the. Here we really have got the externals. Oh, we've got. Oh, okay. We've got the. The track protector plates, the sort of the wings, if you like, the covers, armour plated track covers. In each part is separate part. A typical Ryefield, you know, let's not make it in one piece. Let's do them separately. But it's nice in that you can have one up or damaged, and you can have play around with them. Because they, of course, on the real tank they do hinge upwards, and that enables you to do a bit of battle damage and one askew or one missing, things like that, you know. So I kind of like that, if I'm honest. It sort of adds a little bit of something. Then we have got the rear internal and external. Is that internal? I think there's two different versions there actually of the rear and internal rear wall. Is that the front wall? No, that's the front wall. This one is the front plassis, isn't it? Yes. It's the gun port. It's like the internal wall where the gun comes through, gun port here. And then we've got the hatch, that's the engine hatch there. And you've got your mud guards here, or your front mud guard. You can call these mud guards, but they're really armour plated guards, aren't they? And then strangely we've got two different options, which you're not going to need, I don't think, of these armour plated exhaust covers, which protects the sort of business end of the exhaust pipe. Here you've got your machine gun port. If you look very closely at this, you'll see that it's got that sort of 3D effect, which they actually had these even in machine gun ports in bunkers. I don't know if you've ever seen a German bunker, but they actually have it like that. So that's really well done. Don't know if the camera's catching that or not really. On the internal of the hole there, the aperture. Then you've got your various cables here. And you've got another one, that's the machine gun, I think, that's going to go through the port. And this is the actual ball joint, the ball, pivot ball, of the actual machine gun pivot for that mounting that ultimately is going to come out of here. So there we go. So yes, that's a nice one or two questionable, well, I think questionable perhaps is a bit harsh, but perhaps slightly questionable choices on one or two. The way they've gone about it, but they're giving you everything, aren't they, in this kit? It's the lot, you know. And I'm sure Stewart would say, shouldn't mark it down for that, really. That's the whole point of this particular version, really. To give you everything. Alright, I think we're at the very end. Oh, it's been a long one, this. Don't blame them, don't shoot the messenger, folks. This is Ryefield's way of doing things, I'm afraid. And this, we have a triple. It's only one sprue really, it's in triplicate, so we'll just get one of them out. Here we go, and it is basically all your road wheels and your torsion bars. So let's have a zoom in on this. And it looks really, really nice, I've got to say. It really does. There's nothing wrong with that. Look at those torsion bars here. So many of the actual pivot point, the sort of almost like a trunnion, isn't it, really? I mean, those are beautifully moulded. Look at them. Wow. That's really nice. And then you've got your grills, the top deck, various, you've got the eyelets for the towing eyes. And you've got another, can you see here, there's another little gear, think like a pinion gear. The part on the left there, bottom left. That's amazing. Look at the moulding of that. See the teeth on it, isn't that nice? Incredible. Yep, there's nothing not to like here at all, really. So, wheels wise, exactly what we'd expect, you know. Some nice sprocket drive wheels, teeth. And then you get your idler wheels over here. Sort of thing we've come to expect, really. Yeah. Oh, here's another one there. Another like a pinion gear wheel. Look at that. Again, look at the teeth on that. That is epic. Isn't that nice? They're like a sort of a paradox, aren't they, Ryefield Model? They are producing some of the finest plastic in the world, and some very iffy instructions and some rather strange choices about what's offered. I have to say this kit does not suffer from the failings of some of the previous ones, though, with, you know, so many multiple parts that you're never going to use. There are some. Bear with me. I'll try and do a Rubik's Cube this one. There we go, got it. Wow. I got to the end. Wow, so there we are. My battery's even fading here on my lamp. It's taken that long. I don't know how long the video is. It's got to be well over an hour, hasn't it? What are we up to? About an hour and 15 or something. I really... No idea. I can't see that from where I'm. Oh wait, it's 54. Does it say? Oh, if I've done it in 54. I've done really well, to be perfectly honest. I was expecting this to be a 90-minute job, and I was not looking forward to that. So, pump these in as best we can. And we get them all in. No. They really are awkward, aren't they? Super, super awkward. I've not done badly there, you know, all things considered. Done it. Right, you're probably going to guess what's coming next. So basically, I don't really care for the instructions. I think there's some confusion about that hull, the bathtub hull. I think it's not terribly clear the way they've done it. But it doesn't suffer the weakness and the annoyance as badly, the issue of having too many parts and parts you're never going to use. There are a few, but it's only a handful really, in fairness. And I do love the plastic. Don't care the instructions. It really horrifies me they still can't do a bit of proper history. But there's a lot in that box. That is going to make up a most beautiful King Tiger. And if you're into full interiors, then it's really nice. So I'm going to give it 9.5 out of 10, which I think is pretty fair, to be honest. It's a nice kit. 60 quid. Yeah, it's not cheap, but it's not... For a full interior, it's probably about right, really. Now I've seen all the parts. It's a nice kit. I wouldn't have any hesitation to buy that if that's the kind of kit you like. Full interior tank. And it's got, what, it's got 6 options? There's quite a few options, weren't there? Quite a good selection of markings. And it's got all these options about the gun and the muzzle, different muzzles. But without having multiple different, you know... It doesn't suffer the same silliness as the other Tiger that had 3 different turrets and 3 different top decks and all that kind of nonsense. So there's not that much in here that you won't use. There is some where you'll go for one way or the other, but it's a lot of kit in there, really heavy. Glad I've got it back together again. So I think that's a well-deserved 9.5 out of 10. I think it's actually probably the more impressive of the Ryefield kits that I've seen, in fairness, if I'm being honest. So. Yeah, the only thing that would put me off that kit personally is the tracks. Drive me crazy. Still don't like the way that they did that. I'm not going to mark it down for this again. I say I don't really care for them putting the sprue attachment point on the base of the shell, because you've got to make sure that's a beautiful smooth surface. Just to put that decal on, so it's a little bit tricky. It's not. There's still things they could get. They're not perfect, you know, the moulding. That's the one thing they've got wrong. Well, I think 9.5 is fair. Thank you very much for watching. If you got this far, I think you've done very well to survive. Sorry it was such a long review, but it's a very, very big kit. I said there must be 800 parts in there. Certainly it's between 700 and 800, I'm sure of it. Absolutely crackers. But thank you for watching, and please give me a thumbs up, give us a like. Don't forget my other channel, Peter Goes Row, which needs your support. If you're watching this, please go and have a look. I'll put a link underneath. Please go have a look at my other channel, which got all sorts of things. Me driving Porsches, soon flying Spitfires, and there's, you know, fighter jets taking off in there. There's going to be pet stuff, there's going to be cooking, there's going to be comedy, there's puppet shows, car shows, you name it. All sorts of things that will interest people, I hope. Please have a look and subscribe to the other channel. Thank you very much. That's it from me for now. I'm exhausted. I ate my lunch. But until next time, thanks very much for watching. Till we meet again, take care of yourself. Stay well, stay safe. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks a lot. And bye for now.